If you're thinking about buying a home in the Denver metro area, there are 7 types of homes you may want to avoid. In this video, I'm going to cover those 7 homes as well as any lending considerations you need to know as well. I'm a licensed real estate agent and mortgage broker in Denver and Austin, and I'm here to help prevent you from making a horrible mistake. And with that said, let's get started. So let's start with number 1 on my list, and that's homes with structural or foundation issues. This is one of the biggest concerns with me when people buy a home. Colorado has expansive soil, and what that means is the soil can continuously move. That doesn't mean that every crack is a disaster, and most of the time in Colorado, you're going to see cracked driveways and even cracking in the basement. So not every crack equals disaster. But if you see other signs such as sloping of the house and other things that don't seem to add up, like doors that are having a hard time closing, windows that are struggling to open and close, these can be signs of extreme shifting in the home. At that point, before you make the purchase, you want to hire a structural engineer to see what kind of problems you could get into as you go to buy this home. It's so important not to just get stuck holding the bill, because this can add up to tens of thousands of dollars and be an absolute nightmare to resell. So let's jump into number 2 on my list, and that is manufactured homes. Now, this is not a bash on manufactured homes. In many cases, it makes sense. In fact, in rural Colorado, there are tons of properties, especially on a large amount of acreage, that are manufactured or modular homes. Some things to consider on specifically manufactured homes. The big 2 things are insurability and interest rate. There are very few carriers in the state of Colorado that insure manufactured homes. So you want, before you get too deep into the purchase of a manufactured home, you want to make sure that A, it's insurable, and B, that you're okay with the payment on that insurance plan. Also, with manufactured homes, rates are worse on manufactured homes than they are stick build. So you want to make sure the affordability factor is there when you compile the insurance as well as higher interest rate. If all those things line up and you like the home, then it should be fine. It's just something to consider when purchasing a manufactured home. Now, number 3 on my list is one of the worst homes you can get into. So I beg of you, if you're going to do this, make sure you get such an amazing deal that when you go to sell, you can give them an amazing deal too. And number 3 comes in at homes backing to busy roads. Now, an ugly home can be remodeled. There's a lot of things that you can do to a home. So when you're looking at a home with an ugly kitchen, bad flooring, those things can be remodeled. You cannot move a home away from a major road. And I'll tell you what, I get so many buyers that are not willing to even look at a home that backs to any type of road. There's many reasons for that. They don't want to hear traffic. They might have little kids. They don't want near major roadways, things like that. But what I get is most times when the buyer market is harsh, meaning that there is low inventory and people are just desperate to get a home, I find that people end up making this mistake the most. And then when they go to sell, it might not be the same market and it's an absolute nightmare to sell. One of the biggest things that people do to justify buying these homes is they'll sit inside the house, they'll close all the windows during the showing, close all the doors, and see if they can hear the traffic. Now, you might not hear much traffic at all or any traffic at all, and that might be fine, but you're still going to have that uphill battle when you go to sell of people knowing it's near a major road. So just be very careful when you're considering buying one of these homes. So number 4 on my list is homes that back to industrial areas or train tracks. This can be a really tricky one. So we can get neighborhoods that back to industrial parks and manufacturing plants and things like that. And it might seem harmless. In fact, sometimes it's nice not staring into a neighbor in your backyard, and that business might be a decent amount away that gives you a little bit of a view. But there are some considerations to think about before you make that purchase. One is, what do those companies do and what do they manufacture? Are there any odors that come out of that manufacturing plant? Are there really loud noises that happen early in the morning or distractions throughout the whole day of beeping, trucks backing up or forklifts and just the things that go along in industrial areas? What I recommend if you're going to consider a home in one of these areas is to do your showing a few times throughout the day. Check it in the morning, evening, and afternoon to see if anything changes that you missed if you were on, let's say you were on an evening when the business is shut down. Of course, it's going to appear great versus the morning when things are up and going. This can have a huge effect on your quality of life. Also, trains. Are you near the train crossing where they beep their horn? Things like that can have a huge negative consequence, not only for resale value, but just while you're there and the quality of life that it offers. So it's really important to do your due diligence on homes located near these trains or industrial parks. So number 5 on the list is north-facing driveways. Now, this is not the end of the world, but we are in Denver and we do get extreme winters. So north-facing driveways can be an absolute nightmare for melting snow. You'll see homes in specific areas that face north that just have so much ice compiled, and it's so hard to remove that snow versus homes on the opposite side of the street that are clear and absolutely perfect midday. So these are things to consider. Now, if you find a beautiful home at a great deal and it faces north, it's not going to be the end of the world, but make sure you do know that it is going to require a lot more maintenance during the winters than the homes facing south. Let's get into number 6. Number 6 is older homes with outdated plumbing and electrical. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with an older home. In fact, many people love the character and quality of those older homes, especially those older brick homes in areas, and sometimes they command a lot of money. But one thing you do want to be aware of is what was changed out since those were originally built. Did they have any new electrical done? Did they have any new plumbing done to meet any type of modern day standards? Also, with some of these older homes, you get the beautiful overgrown trees, which are amazing and great, but sometimes they intrude on certain things like sewer lines. So if you are going to entertain or you're specifically looking for an older home, you want to make sure mostly what's going behind the walls and the unseen portions that can cause you to have an absolute nightmare and cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So number 7 on my list is condos. Condos are becoming a real issue in the Denver metro area and actually nationally, but specifically Denver, it's really dragging down the real estate market. And there's several reasons for that. The largest reason is the HOA fees. So when you see a condo online, it might be beautiful and you might get excited, but the first thing you want to scroll down to is the HOA fees. In the Denver metro area, HOA fees can range from $500 to well over $1,000. Not only do you want to look at that, you want to see the amount of increments that it keeps going up. Does it go up every year? Does it go up every several months? You want to look at the cadence that it's going up. If you see HOA fees in that specific development going up consistently, that might be a huge red flag that you want to avoid. Also, the problem with these condos are the HOA sometimes tries to cut corners and keep HOA costs down, which sounds great. But in some cases, they'll skimp out on insurance and they'll make the deductible so high that these condos appear to not be even lendable. So imagine that you're in one of these condos and the HOA decides to make a decision on insurance that now makes every unit unlendable. You're now in a cash-only complex. Can you even imagine what that does to the price and value of your specific condo? So again, there's questions you want to ask. How healthy is the HOA reserves? Are there any special assessments? What does the HOA actually cover? And just do a ton of due diligence on these before you plunge in and buy one. Right now, we're seeing a lot of people want to exit these condos, but once that happens and you start to see an influx of sellers and people catch on that they might be nervous about these HOAs and stuff, you'll see a flood of these come onto the market. And that does not do you well as a seller and specifically a buyer as well. If there's a gazillion units being sold in one specific complex, that should be a huge red flag that people are running away from. And you need to ask yourself if you should be running to it. So the biggest takeaway is not to scare you from any of these type of homes, but it's to get you to rethink and ask more questions. Due diligence is king, especially in this market. You should always think and rethink about the decisions you're going to make because this is one of the biggest financial purchases you'll ever make. You should be working with an agent that asks a lot of questions and does this research for you. I'm always here as a resource as a real estate agent and lender. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I would love you to like and subscribe for further information, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.